Time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. I have with me in the studio leadership and communication strategist Dotun Ojon and political technocrat Dr. Dayo-Kayode. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
It's obvious you had a great weekend. You look well rested.
I'm even happy for what I'm saying that TVC is partnering with Innocent
Motors.
because I've always been in the vanguard that innocent cars is supposed to be on the roads in Nigeria. We shouldn't be selling this Toyota and Hyundai again.
Yeah.
It has to be innocent. Even
Absolutely.
in Europe, West Africa, if not Africa.
That's what TVC is about.
Kudos
We're
to-
championing
kudos to TVC on
Nigerian
that.
products. All right, let's head back to the papers now, and I begin with the Business AM. MPC members raise concerns over banks' excess liquidity. It's a precious external sector, they say. To the leadership newspaper this morning, education still underfunded in state's investigation. Rivers, Imo record highest allocation to sector in 2019. Others blame poor performance on paucity of funds. On the front page of the blueprint, KADUNA-ABUIA ROUTE Railway workers, police in ticket racketeering, yields between 450,000, 1 million naira daily. E-ticketing way out to generate 16 billion naira in 2029, Amechi ICRC. We are not aware NRC police, 10 more coaches arrive. And on the front page of the News Direct, non-configuration of ILS at airports responsible for flight delay, investigation. On the front page of the Daily Trust, how illicit weapons fuel Nigeria's insecurity. Gunrunners ferry arms on donkeys, camels via illegal routes. On the front page of the Daily Times, Uzodimma versus Ihedioha. Battle shifts again to Supreme Court. Governor Uzodimma wants motion struck out. Ex-Governor Ihedioha seeks a reversal of judgment. And finally, on the front page of the Nation newspaper, why service chiefs won't be sacked now by presidency. Troops foil Boko Haram's attack on Damaturu, MBF rejig security structure. All right, gentlemen, I'm certain that this story on the front page of the Nation newspaper would interest you because of recent developments. A lot of persons have been calling for the sack of security chiefs for some time now, looking at the spate of insecurity across the region or across the country. But then the presidency has finally come out to say that the service chiefs won't be sacked now, as that wouldn't really change anything as much. I'll start with you, Dr. Dayo-Kayode. It's obvious that the presidency is not going to rejig the security architecture as many have called. I wonder how this comes to you.
On a lighter mood first, you know that on Friday, if you look at the news track, there was nothing like strike by some of these hoodlums. You know why? Because they were celebrating Valentine. And you know, I now told some people, well, look, if we're looking at this insecurity in the country, there is nobody that can force the president to change the architectural format, based on the fact that he knows what he is doing. And to a very large extent, I've been saying it, there's what we call conspiracy theory in what is happening to us in this country.
In what sense? How
in
do
what
you
is
mean?
happening, I will tell you now. I will come to it. I've been saying this for over 2 years. Punch even carried it a week after I mentioned it, because another ambassador in this country also reiterated that. Because I don't know why, number one, some people have been killing people, have been killing your citizens. People that voted for you, they have been killing them, maiming them, sacking them from their villages. I will now catch some of them. You are now putting them back into the military that is supposed to work against these insurgents. How on earth do you expect such people will be loyal to you? It's not possible. How on earth do you think, do you know that some of these, all these insurgents, they are ideologically based?
Absolutely.
Do you understand? So there is little or nothing you can do to change them from their belief system. So when you now catch them, and you now say, okay, you have pardoned them, as you have pardoned the
They go through a process.
South, whatever.
They go through a process.
Which process
as we are made to believe.
As you are made to believe. The issue is this. When your phone is having problems, you reconfigure it. And for you to know that it has been reconfigured, there are some elements, there are some variables that you're going to check. Have they been able to check those variables that these people have been reconfigured? The point is
if they haven't, do you think they would release them to the society? And
then to a very large extent, so why have you not been able to conquer them now? Why is it that they always understand when the military is about to strike? Why is it that after they have performed after they have perpetrated their whatever, it's when the military will now come and say, where are they? Why? These are issues. For me, there is, you know what? In Yoruba, they always say something. The connivance that brought them together, for us Nigerians to be suffering all this, will soon come out. They themselves will bring it out.
Make me understand. You're saying there's a connivance between the security chiefs and this person. Is that what you're saying? Because the issue here is about the rejigging of the security architecture.
It's not about having relationship with them. But the question is this. These people that are here, they are not performing. They are not performing. They are supposed to be securing your citizens. But each day, there is always a problem between your citizens and these hoodlums. And still, these service chiefs cannot stop it.
All right,
so why don't you look for better brains? Why don't you look for new ideas? If there is no fig leaf, according to James Ali Chase, somewhere.
Dotun, is this an issue of the service chiefs running out of ideas in terms of strategizing to deal with this war, and that is why we need to get them out of the way to get fresh persons to handle to take the reins of insecurity?
Really, I would not know. I wouldn't know whether they are running out of idea. But what I do know is that anybody and everyone calling for the change of service chief is actually expressing a love for this government. Yes, because you cannot take us from a place and promise us that you're going to take us to the promised land and abandon us on the way to the promised land. You know, one very scary thing about change management is that change becomes a deadly thing if the vehicle of change starts from the start point and it doesn't get to the end point. In 2015 and 2016, we saw the successes recorded by this government as far as the fight against terror is concerned. A lot of successes. Nigerians are not expecting that the government will now return them back to base one. The pre-2015 issues that we had with insecurity. And for God's sake, that's where we are now. That's why it's very alarming. And I don't want this government to continue to express political pride. And is
that what this is?
Yes, it's actually political pride. If everybody in your community is saying, this is how we want things done, and you're saying, no, you don't want to go that way. And this is how to note if a government is actually crossing that line. If genuine criticism looks like a cost to you, that somebody is causing or abusing you when they are genuinely criticizing you, then you are crossing the line of political pride. If an ordinary citizen cannot correct his government and the government takes it as an insult, then the government is actually crossing the line of political pride. So I want the government to actually sit down. The president, for example, knows more than I do know.
Absolutely.
As far as security is concerned. But I am not concerned about the reason. I am only concerned about the result. So if you are not giving me the result as a citizen that I want, I will continue to question your ability. So it's not as if we think that they do not know what to do. But once you don't give result, people will continue to question your ability.
Are you aware of what El Rufai said some times ago?
What did he say?
While he was a minister, he knew a little bit about security activities.
But we'll have to leave it here.
President.
Let's leave it here now. Let's leave the discussion here because of want of time. Thank you so much for your contribution on the newspaper review this morning.
Time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. I have with me in the studio leadership and communication strategist Dotun Ojon and political technocrat Dayo Kayode. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Good morning. Happy Monday to you.
Yeah. All right, I'm sure you had a great weekend with the Valentine and all of that.
Yeah, you know. I don't want to tell you the full story
The
of
fantastic is okay. Let's do that. Fantastic. All right, so let's look at the first newspaper this morning, Business AM. It says MPC members raise concerns over banks' excess liquidity. It pressures external sector. That's according to them. They say the leadership newspaper here is saying education still underfunded in states. That's according to investigation. Rivers, Imo record highest allocation to sector in 2019. Others blame poor performance on paucity of funds. The blueprint says Kaduna Railway routes, Kaduna-ABUIA routes, railway workers in police tickets, railway workers police in ticket racketeering yields between 450,000 naira to 1 million daily. E-ticketing way out to generate 16 billion naira in 2029, says Amici ICRC. We're not aware NRC police 10 more coaches arrived. The news direct is saying non-configuration of ILS at airports responsible for flight delays, says investigations. Daily Trust says here how illicit weapons fuel Nigeria's insecurity. Gunrunners ferry arms on donkeys, camels via illegal routes. The Daily Times says Uzodinma versus Ihedioha. Battle shifts again to Supreme Court. Governor Uzodinma wants motion struck out. Ex-Governor Ihedioha seeks reversal of judgment. The Nation newspaper says why service chiefs won't be sacked now by presidency. Writer says troops foil Boko Haram's attack on Damaturu. MBF rejigs security structure. So we'll stick with the story in the leadership newspaper this morning. It says here education still underfunded in states according to investigations. Rivers, Imo record highest allocation to sector in 2019. Others blame poor performance on paucity of funds. Gentlemen, let's talk about this now. There's always been a call for the improvement in our educational sector, but what we're seeing now, according to investigation, is still largely underfunded, especially in our budgets, in this 2020 budget and 2019 and other budgets we've had. Rivers, Imo State record highest allocation to sector in 2019. But the question is, what do we see in those states? Dotun?
Okay, education is light, and it's a tool for freedom, total emancipation of the mind. If you do not allow the mind to grow, there's no how the society can grow. But having said that, it's not just about states. If you look at the federal budget, even for, I think for the year 2020, the budgetary allocation actually for education stands at about 7.something percent.
Yep.
And if we are to go by the popular saying, the popular demand or expectation of UNESCO, then we should be talking about 26% of budgetary allocation to education. But having said that, beyond budget, we have issues with our education. You can continue to build on a foundation that makes your people, after graduation, not useful to themselves and the society. Education is supposed to help you discover your purpose and equip you with the capacity to launch out. So it's supposed to be access and assignment. Access in the sense that everybody should have access to basic education. Assignment in the sense that the education you have access to must be able to impact your life and impact the society. But what we have now, what we call education now, is perhaps just an art of getting certification. And that's not real education. So, yes, just get the certification and perhaps get a job. And that's why we continue to talk about the problem of the nation. Every problematic nation or every nation with a problem should naturally rely on its educated populace. But that's not our case in Nigeria. We are looking abroad for the solution to our problems. But if we have an adequate or a well planned out education system, then we should be looking inwards to having some of our problems solved.
All right, let's hear from Dio.
Yeah, you see, for me, I always see education as beyond the four walls of the school.
Okay.
Because education is all about socialization, understanding, and then the applicability of what you have seen around you to be able to tackle certain problems. To that extent, the money that are being allocated to education, even in all those states, what have we been using them for? let us go back to even the 4 walls of the school. What are the curriculum that are being taught there? When I was coming this morning, I have to pick one young guy, you know, to give him a ride. And then I started a discussion with him. You going to Ireland? He said, yes. What do you do at the island? He works with an insurance company. What did you read in school? Biochemistry. What do you think you can do with your biochemistry without that insurance company? He doesn't know. So to that extent, what kind of knowledge has been impacted in him? Even along the line, I asked him, do you think that this old man is pressurizing you too much? He says something like that. I mean, you can imagine somebody who is trying to give you a leeway into how to make a better self in the society.
So it's beyond the funding.
Do you understand? So it's beyond funding.
But funding is necessary because
listen,
you see that schools abroad are always updating their knowledge. Of course, you can't do that without funding.
If you look at even those abroad, it is beyond funding. They always give them a broad outlook of what life is.
Okay.
All right, but here we are always more concerned about certification. This is where you will see a 4-year-old boy. You expecting him to be able to count from 1 to 1 million. You're expecting him to be able to speak BB grammar. But it's beyond that. They're not talking about descriptive analysis. They're not talking about how to understand what variables are and all that. Unlike over there, when you're growing up, they want to teach you what color is. But you think that they are stupid or they don't know what they are doing. But they know what they are doing. No, they are trying to impart descriptive analysis into you or like, yeah.
So it's all about culture.
Yes, even with the funding we are talking about, there's a disconnect when you talk about funding. In the sense that, I'm going to cite my state as an example. In Ondo State, there was a governor called Olusegun Mimiko who was building what he called mega school. Mega school, the idea is let the young ones study in a friendly environment, computer lab, and all of that. But when the other governor came, he felt that, no, this is just too big for primary school students. He converted some of them to university, to what's it called, satellite campus for universities and the higher institutions. Now, he now went ahead to start renovating primary school again. That's another allocation. So another governor is going to come, take another allocation, spend it on. So it means everything we do is to achieve political point. That's what I'm saying.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for talking to us on this.
It's time to take a look at stories making the headlines in Nigerian newspapers. I have with me in the studio leadership and communication strategist Dotun Ojon and political technocrat Dr. Dayo Kayode. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
All right, we head straight to the papers now, and I begin with the Business AM. MPC members raise concerns over banks' excess liquidity. It pressures the external sector, they say. To the front page of the leadership newspaper, education still underfunded in states. Investigation. Rivers, Imo record highest allocation to sector in 2019. Others blame poor performance on paucity of funds. Blueprint now. KADUNA-ABUIA ROUTE Railway workers police in ticket racketeering yields between 450,000 naira, 1 million naira daily. E-ticketing way out to generate 16 billion naira in 2029. Amechi ICRC. We are not aware. NRC police, 10 more coaches arrive. On the front page of the News Direct, non-configuration of instrument landing system at airports responsible for flight delay investigation. And to the front page of the Daily Trust, how illicit weapons fuel Nigeria's insecurity. Gunrunners ferry arms and donkeys, camels via illegal routes. And to the Daily Times, reversal of judgment. And on the front page of the Nation newspaper, why service chiefs won't be sacked now by presidency. Troops for a Boko Haram attack on Damaturu. MBF rejects security structure. Gentlemen, I'd like for us to look at this story that seemed to have affected a lot of Nigerians, talking about the non-configuration of the instrument landing system at airports responsible for the flight delays. In recent times, due to the weather, the Harmattan haze, we've seen cancellation of flights diversion of flights to Ghana and other neighboring countries. That's because of the configuration of the instrument landing system that hasn't been done in Nigeria, Lagos especially. I wonder how this comes to you when you see that international flights are being diverted to other African countries when the giant of Africa seems to be struggling with issues like this. I'll start with you, Dr. Kayode.
Yeah, you see, it is all about configuration and calibration of all these ILS. And what is ILS supposed to do is about giving the pilot directions as regards directions, either visibility and all that, as regards the airport environment and then the runway to know how to maneuver your aircraft to land. And if ILS is not well calibrated or configured, it can make you to even overshoot the runway, and we know what that means. It will not allow you to have the normal visibility range, which you are supposed to have. We can also cause incident or, at the end of the day, accidents. And to that extent, you find out that of recent, there have been some diversion of even international flights to Ghana. And what is that telling us? Does that still tell us that we are serious as a people, despite all the kind of professionals that we have within the industry? And that's also tell us how much money we are also losing within that industry and the effect on our economy. Imagine a flight that is supposed to land in Nigeria. For instance, our MMA there. You have to pay for landing now.
Absolutely.
And so when you don't land, will you now pay for what?
You can't.
And then again, when you have already prepared your flight plan to land in Lagos, and then Lagos cannot provide you that service, what will happen? You'll be bound to pay compensation to that airline because you have not been able to provide them the services that you are supposed to provide. So what happens to also our economy? And that is why you now see most, even industries, going to Ghana instead of Nigeria. So I believe that Nigerians, we should be able to stand up and say enough of all this mess that we are putting ourselves into.
This happens every year.
Not even every year, every time. Every time, despite all the experts that we have. At least I have known about all these problems happening to, especially this ILS, as far as nothing less than 25 years ago. Until now, we have not been able to solve that problem. What is wrong with us as a people?
Dotun, we've not been able to solve this problem for a long time, stemming from what he has said. What picture does it paint?
A bad picture. It's an extension of, unfortunately, of who we are as a people. When you talk about capacity collapse, that's inability to do things the right way. I think there's a general capacity collapse in the system. And I'm also concerned about the fact that because we need to ask some of these basic questions as to he talked about the economy of the nation. But I'm actually worried about the economy of the individual who is supposed to land in Lagos. Yes, who's supposed to land in Lagos.
A lot of Nigerians are stuck in Ghana as we speak.
And eventually taken to Ghana. How do you get back home? Because I'm sure that perhaps the airlines will not want to provide that service because, of course, it's not the problem of the plan. It's not part of the plan. So at every point in time, it's quite unfortunate that people will continue to be the victim of whatever policy, whatever program that is not well run. And when you talk about government generally, in Nigeria, it's a very complex assignment. And that's why I keep saying it, that if you are not ready for the complexity of fixing the nation, I'm not sure it's going to be a right thing for anybody to want to signify that he wants to run for any race. Because when people love you genuinely, expectation will come.
Definitely. Because
if I love you, I'm expecting some things from you. Unfortunately, expectation and disappointment live in the same flat. If I am expecting something from you and you are unable to give me, I will be disappointed. And that's where we are going to now. If you look at, let's cite an example of Lagos. Okada ban.
Quickly.
Yes, there's Okada ban in Lagos. You know why the effect has been so much and pronounced? It's because that over time we have not paid attention to other means of transportation. I'm just citing that as an example. Now, all over the country, the rail system is not working efficiently. Right. Thank God for the present administration that is trying to eject some money. But right. As we speak now, you can have a country of 200 million people and not make transportation work. If state government invests only in transportation, moving people from one place to the other, is going to be a huge IGR for the state government.
Gentlemen, we do hope that the instrument landing system would be fixed or calibrated as soon as possible.
And we'll continue to pray too.
All right.
What else do we do?
Thank you for your contribution on the newspaper review.